Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Data Experiences in the Modern Financial Institution. My name is Abood Hamour. I'm a solutions engineer here at Looker, and now part of Google Cloud as of earlier this year. I will be your host and moderator for today's presentation. And today I'll be going over how financial institutions are using Looker to unlock the full value of information they're collecting by, first and foremost, creating and delivering data experiences that transcend what we know as traditional BI. So, in terms of what the topics we're going to cover today, I did want to start by just giving a quick high-level overview of some of the industry trends we are seeing within data in the financial services industry, and most importantly, some of the challenges and opportunities that have risen from those trends. I'll pivot to Looker and talk about how we're uniquely architected to help organizations solve those challenges and take advantage of those opportunities, as well as touch on some customer stories on how Looker users within the financial services space are leveraging the platform to do so as well. We'll also have a live product demonstration to show some of these different data experiences in terms of what people are doing with data. So at a really high level first, based on industry research and speaking to a lot of data leaders in the field, what we've learned is there are 4 key trends affecting the financial services industry, in the past few years, but even more importantly in 2020. The first one is, of course, big data. Financial services are collecting all this data, and they want to be able to now leverage it to make business decisions in real time, to better understand their customers, know which products to push for cross-selling, manage fraud, increase customer engagement through better customer service, so on and so forth. So that's, of course, a big one. Also, cloud computing. Not everyone's made the jump, but a lot of organizations we are seeing in the financial services space are either embarking on a journey or have already made the move to the cloud as a secure and cost-effective way to host their data and to run their applications at scale. Artificial intelligence as well goes hand in hand with big data, but being able to leverage AI and machine learning to transform from product-centric organizations to customer-first organizations by, again, better understanding your customers and products. And then finally, of course, automation, both internally and externally, and building custom applications for different experiences, whether it's custom chatbots or online banking portals that your customers can take advantage of and that could differentiate you from other organizations in the market. So, all this to say that really across the entire industry, data and modernization is huge, and it really does have massive implications into the business. So, of course, with these trends do come challenges, but also huge opportunities for organizations to take advantage of the use of data to increase revenue and, of course, reduce costs and mitigate risk. And all across the industry, whether we're thinking of banking or capital markets, insurance, fintech, we are seeing that a lot of organizations are looking to solve the same problems. Whether it's trying to better understand our customers, their needs, and improve satisfaction so we can increase our lifetime value, retain high-value customers, reduce the risk of customers churning, and, of course, increase customer engagement and satisfaction. How do we personalize product recommendations so that we're getting the right products to the right customers at the right time, whether it's cross-selling the right financial product or knowing the right time to give a promotion to our customers to upgrade to a new credit card, or giving the right insurance quote to our customers is a big thing people are trying to use with data as well. How do we compete in the market with new modernized products and use the data to deliver those best products? And those could be financial products, but they could be actual applications that we're delivering to customers to differentiate as well. Because what we have seen is that companies that are creating differentiating experiences, products, and services with data are the ones that are grow faster and more likely to succeed in this era of disruption. I mentioned it before, but being able to increase revenue and reduce costs by automating and improving a lot of the legacy manual processes that are built into a lot of these financial services organizations. A really big one in recent times is how do we use real-time data to better detect fraud? And, once we detect that fraud, be able to actually better manage the repercussions that come to mitigate our risk for the entire organization. And then finally, doing all of this stuff within the really strict guidelines and privacy and compliance guidelines that come with being in financial services. So, hopefully today I'll be able to showcase how our customers are using Looker to solve a lot of these challenges today. And, with regards to our customers, today Looker has about, just over 2,000 customers, over 200 in the financial services space alone, and these are some of those customers. Of course, it's not limited to these. There's a lot that are not public and that we can't show, but really the idea is that these customers run the gamut of different segments within the financial services space, but despite sitting in completely different parts of the industry and being at different sizes and different maturity levels, we are seeing two main similarities across the customers we work with. The first one is that, all of these organizations have some sort of goal or charter to modernize, to become more data-driven, or to build a data culture so that really everyone across the organization, whether it's their customer service representative, a branch employee, the marketing analysts, are using data to inform their day-to-day decisions. The second one is that they're all using data in some shape or form that transcends traditional BI and transcends just, classic reporting and dashboards. And that's really what we're seeing, in financial services more than any other industry, that to unlock the full value of the information that they're collecting, these institutions need solutions that is going to transcend traditional BI and create data experiences for their end users. And what we mean by data experiences is really any way that data can be leveraged outside of traditional reporting to get data into the hands of those that need it and in a way that they'll feel comfortable using it on a day-to-day basis. Now, before we go through some examples, I did want to give an overview of what it is about Looker that makes it uniquely positioned to be this platform on which all these different data experiences can be built quickly and at scale. And it really comes down to three main things. The first one is that with Looker, data stays in your database. And what we mean by that is Looker was fortunate enough to have been founded in a time more recently where databases and data warehouse technologies and data lakes were getting infinitely faster and cheaper, and they continue to do so. And these technologies, whether on-premise or in the cloud, were no longer being designed mainly to store data, but really built to run large-scale analytical processing in real time at high concurrency. So it no longer really made sense to take data out of the database and shuffle it across the organization into different extracts and cubes and workbooks or on people's laptops. So instead, today, we can actually leave all the data where it lives, and Looker will just connect directly via JDBC as this single secure point of access so that anyone across the organization or any application has access to all the up-to-date data when they need it versus always needing to go back to fetch new data sets or wonder if the extract they're dealing with has been refreshed or is the latest data. So that's from a business side, being able to have access to all the data you need to make your decisions. And then on the IT side, it really radically simplifies DevOps by removing the need to constantly build very specific cubes and extracts for one-off use cases, because now it's all going to sit there. And of course, within financial services, security is a big piece as well. And you really limit your exposure to any security risk by leaving that data there and not shuffling it across the company. So that's the first one. But now that we have access to all our data and then all that real-time data, how can we ensure that users and applications are able to actually query it and get information from it in a way that is governed, correctly permissioned, and without any prior knowledge of SQL or actually how to access that data? And this is where the second piece comes in, which is Looker's modeling layer. We call it LookML. And really what it is, it's a text-based, version-controlled data dictionary where all your organization's business logic is stored so that Looker knows how to access data. So instead of physically modeling data in workbooks or in the database, it's just this virtual data dictionary that will teach Looker how to get data for everyone in the organization. So an end user, for example, can go within the drag and drop interface in the Looker UI and ask brand new questions, and Looker will actually leverage the latest definitions of the model to build them an efficient query, send it to the database, and get them the results so that really everyone in the organization can become these SQL writers, while Looker is making sure to infuse the correct logic and correct permissions for that user. On the IT side, this virtual model also means that maintaining data definitions and changing data definitions becomes a much easier process. Whereas in the past, you may have to go to a database engineer and physically change it in the database, or actually go into these workbooks and update them across every workbook. Now all the logic is being stored in these little snippets in one single place. So if something were to change, I change it in the model, test it, push to production, and then immediately every single report where that piece of logic is being used will automatically update to reflect the change that had been made by the analyst. So those first two pillars are really the foundation of the Looker platform, access to data and then being able to do it in a secure and governed way. The third one is really what facilitates the creation of these data experiences, and that is the modern integration that Looker has with external systems. Because we're web-based, because we were built in the cloud, it makes it really easy to really integrate Looker with any third-party or web-based tools, either external or internal that you use to create these new data experiences. And what we mean by that is it could be integrating Looker with your chat app to send data to Slack or to GChat, or integrating Looker with your authentication mechanisms like Active Directory for automatic permissioning, embedding Looker within your own custom applications or with your own third-party applications. Really what we offer is an API for data. Basically, any customer has access to Looker's entire API, whether it's querying data, managing users, the scheduler, the download button. That's fully exposed out to Looker customers so that they can now build tools to deliver these data experiences out to their end users in the way that makes most sense for them. So if we take a step back now and think about some of those challenges and opportunities, how can we put some of these pillars that I was touching on in context of some of the challenges that a lot of these financial services organizations and probably many of you are facing? So if we think about data staying in your database, that is now going to allow you to better understand your customer needs and improve satisfaction because you have access to that 360-degree view of your customer. You now know what they're doing on your website, what products they have, how much they're spending, who they're interacting with, their social media activity, all that information in one place so that you can make the right decisions and be better at attracting customers and reducing churn. Of course, data staying in your database has also huge implications for real-time use cases like routing customers to customer service representatives in real time, or automatically detecting fraud. Again, just because of being one step closer to that data, Looker can be constantly checking, and as soon as something changes, be alerted about a potential fraudulent transaction that you can go investigate. The single source of truth data dictionary, as I mentioned, is what's going to allow you to ensure that privacy compliance and mitigate risk, because everyone now is getting data that's gone through this governed model. And it's also what's going to allow on the business side for users to self-serve. So as they're trying to decide what new products we should deliver to the market, they have this self-service environment where they can ask any question they want, test these products out, see which cohorts they'll be more effective with without having to go back to someone on IT or a data analyst. And then finally, the modern integration of external systems, again, is what's going to allow you to create those experiences. So if we're thinking about how do we personalize product recommendations in marketing, you can now, from a Looker dashboard, automatically push product recommendations into an online banking portal without ever leaving the dashboard. Or on the marketing side, automatically pause or increase or decrease spend in different marketing campaigns based on how different ads are performing, again, without leaving the dashboard or having that all be done programmatically. Again, it's all about how do we now automate and improve these manual processes by triggering processes and other tools based on what we're seeing in the data or based on what's happening in the data programmatically. So now, how does that translate to how some of our customers are using Looker? So at a high level, this is the Looker architecture. Again, all the data is in the database. Looker sits on top, connects via JDBC, and that Looker platform is where you will define all the user management, the security, but most importantly, that data model, that data dictionary so that it knows how to access the data. But now that you have this platform to access data in a secure way and access all your data, really it's up to you in terms of what you want to do with it. Some people will still, of course, want to consume data in the traditional sense of BI with dashboards and reports, but that won't be the case for everyone. And these are just some of the different kind of most common data experiences we see across the financial service industry, but across many other industries as well. So, on the left, we do have that BI piece. And a lot of our customers are still getting huge value out of Looker as a BI tool, but with a modern spin on it. Because of that model, it provides much more self-service. And because of that in-database connection, users who are now self-serving have access to all their data. So, as an example, Simply Business, one of our customers in the UK, one of the largest small business insurers over there, with over 300,000 policy holders, really were able to leverage Looker to infuse this data culture across the organization. So as an example, they have a really non-traditional website that takes you through a quote process, and a lot of the options that you progress through the website will react to get you the right quote you need as you click on different things. So for them, really understanding how people move through the different paths is quite challenging for standard web analytics tools. But with Looker and the self-service environment and this access to data, they've now been able to give their analysts who don't know much about the data or much about SQL the ability to run these complex user journeys, behavior analysis, customer cohorting, to really understand which quotes to get to which users at the right time. And of course, increase their customer acquisition. And ultimately, increasing product sales by 1%, as well as the revenue by over 9%. And then as we start to think about outside of BI, how can we now get data into the places where people work today? And we call that integrated insights, get them within context, not force them to come into the dashboard, but actually infuse data into their current workflows. So, for example, Stripe, the payment company, they're actually using Looker for their sales team, and their sales teams don't even use Looker dashboards. They spend most of their time on Salesforce because that's where they have all their customer information. But they do need some other information to make better decisions in terms of how they sell their customers, like how are customers using the product, what payments are they making, different transactions. So what they've done is they've actually embedded Looker dashboards that contain all that other information that's outside of Salesforce and put it within the Salesforce account pages. So now when these sales reps are making these calls, they have all this other information that are going to allow them to create that better customer experience and, of course, improve sales and reduce customer return. And that's an example with Salesforce, but that can really be with any tool. You can embed Looker into Marketo, into Jira. You can have Looker automatically push alerts again into Slack or GChat. It's really about getting data, even if it's just an alert or something small, into the places where people work versus kind of forcing them into that, again, standard view of BI. If you're moving to this third piece, and this is a really big one, especially when you think about business value, is having Looker infused into operational workflows. And we already talked about some examples, but TransferWise, for example, is using Looker to have alerts automatically routed to customer operations reps for high-value customers that may have been in the queue too long. So these alerts are routed based on personality, based on machine learning, and how different customers, with data for those customers right into their custom-built tools for their customer service representatives so that they can give that customer a much better experience. But again, this can really be done for any operational workflows. We talked about pausing ads. It could be automatically creating tickets in Jira. It could be updating records in Salesforce. Basically, any time an end user is seeing something in the data and then going to another tool to take an action, this can be automatically created via an integration so that right from their dashboard, they can click a button or, again, have it done programmatically so that that process is triggered into another tool. And they don't have to be constantly moving back and forth. And then finally is this idea of leveraging Looker to create fully custom applications. And this is becoming a really, really popular one. I think about 30-40% of our customer base is using Looker to build custom applications. These custom applications could be external applications. So Global Payments, for example, they deliver payment solutions to over 1 million customers worldwide. And a large number of their customers were interested in seeing their own transactional data. So what they did is they used Looker's API and iframe embed capabilities to build a fully custom monetized application that they were able to scale out to over 500,000 customers to give them the ability to view their own data, build their own reports, and it's all being governed by that one single model. So it's able to scale out these 500 users, but it's all being controlled that one version of definition so that if they need to change anything, it does update everywhere at the same time. And they, of course, were able to monetize this, so really increase their revenue through this new product that at face value actually looks nothing like Looker. Using the API, Looker is just the back end, the data delivery engine, but it looks like a fully customized global payments product. A lot of larger organizations are also using the same API and iframe embed capabilities to build internal products. So, one of the largest investment banks in the U.S. is also using Looker to deliver data to their financial analysts, who they need to interact with trading position data, but they don't want to do it in the traditional sense of kind of dashboarding. They need it in a really custom specific format, and they just need their data, in very large tables and in very specific format for them to be able to make their decision and improve on their investments. So what they did was, similar to Global Payments, they built their own custom data servicing tool that was fully built in-house and that matched all the specific requirements and needs those financial analysts required. But again, it looked nothing like Looker. Looker was just the back end powering that. So, really all this to say, there's no limit to what type of experience you can build. What I'm just trying to show is we're seeing that it's these new data experiences that are really adding the most value to the businesses when it comes to data. And no matter how you're using it, whether you have Looker dashboards, whether it's integrated into custom applications, triggering operational workflows, building custom apps, because it's all being managed through that one model, changing that model is not only going to go update your reports, it's really updating data everywhere where it's being used. So it makes it really easy to manage and really providing the tools for you to build these applications and build these processes quickly and at scale. So with that, I actually wanted to move into, actually a live demonstration of the product. And I'll actually try to touch on each of these experiences and show you, what that could look like within the actual Looker application or within these custom applications. What I'm showing now, this is the actual Looker application. This is where you have access to, those dashboards, that modern BI piece, the dashboard, the exploration, the scheduler, and of course that data dictionary, that model to build in all your metrics. Of course, everything in here can be permissioned based on different user types. But I figured what I'd do today is, I wanted to start with showing what a typical day could look like for an analyst in a cards division who is trying to, cross-sell customers and reach better customers with promotions and really trying to analyze how their different credit cards are doing. But everything that I showed today could obviously easily be mapped to any other part of the industry, and I'll try to make those connections as we go through this. Once I've done that and show what it looks like in Looker, how you can trigger those operational workflows, how you can self-serve without having to go back to a data team and get your questions answered, I'll move into some examples of integrated insights that we talked about, and then a quick example of what it looks like to build a fully custom application on top of Looker. So right now I'm in Looker, but generally, the way a lot of people start their journey into Looker, on a given day is actually not by logging into the application, but it's through an email. So we can imagine that as an analyst or as a manager in a cards division at a retail bank, I get an email every day at 9 a.m. With the link and PDF to my dashboard, specifically filtered down automatically for my data for my division, so that I can now jump in and see how my division is performing. So I get a high-level view, how much we're charging to customers, new customers we've acquired this quarter, how the different cards are performing, what customers are using the cards for, so on and so forth. The first thing to note within kind of this mindset of modern BI is that each of these widgets are live queries. So I know that whenever I load a dashboard, I'm looking at the most up-to-date information, and that this information is also correct. Because these queries are live, every time I load a dashboard, Looker is actually checking that data dictionary and seeing, hey, have any of the definitions changed? If they have, it's actually updating these queries in real time and then sending those to the database. So even if someone were going to make a change to that model, now every dashboard that was using that definition, let's say for what a new customer is or what a lost customer is, once that change is made, it'll be propagated across every single piece of content that uses that. So I can be sure that what I'm seeing is up to date and is trusted. I can also really interact with any of these data points and drill in. Because we have access to all the data, I'm not limited by the level of aggregation that's been presented to me in the dashboard. I can really click in anywhere and drill in and get more information. And so if I wanted to actually go and drill into particular card transactions, get to the low-level detail, or slice it by different, by client or by category, I'd be able to do that. But for now, I'm going to actually move a little further and say, maybe I was looking at my card dashboard and I saw that in the, we're not doing too great in the 60 or above category compared to the other age categories. And the Looker Emerald card actually doesn't have any, or practically any customers within that category. So I wanted to understand, okay, how can we now improve customer spend within that category across all cards and then hopefully the Looker Emerald card. So looking here at this chart, I can see for each different age group, what is the different spend by different transaction categories: entertainment, home, health and personal care, etc. And maybe for 60 or above, I'm actually going to remove travel and entertainment because we actually already offer cashback campaigns for both those categories. And I can see that home doesn't have as much spend as I'd like, and I want to potentially maybe start a campaign there. I can come in here and decide to drill by merchant. And actually have Looker now create a new query to get me the top merchants for this particular category. And once maybe I pick a merchant that has the highest number of transactions, I can programmatically go to their website and see what other campaigns we've offered or link to other internal tools we have to get information on what those merchants are doing to know what campaign might make sense to offer. And then once I've made the decision, I can actually go and create that campaign with the merchant right from my dashboard. And this will actually potentially send an email to my merchant or send a webhook to an in-house tool that will automatically create that campaign within our online banking system. And these kind of actions really, as I touched on before, can really be created for any operational workflow using webhooks. whether it's your internal tools or external tools, it's what's going to allow you to close the loop between insight and action. So there could be one for automatically pushing a promotion to a customer through an online banking portal. Or also, if we're talking about fraud and I see a fraudulent transaction, an action to automatically create a ticket to investigate that transaction, or an action to send a Slack to my manager to take a look at something. And each of these things can be done with a form as well, so it can take user input. So here are my notes, this is something to take a look at, and it will send that data to another tool to do something with it, so that you're actually performing an action based on what you're seeing. So now that I've started that campaign, and hopefully we'll get an increased spend from users older than 60 in the home category, I now want to take a deeper dive into some of our other cards. So there's a high-level view of our cards, their annual fees, how many customers we have, and a card progression Sankey to take a look at what kind of the movement is between different cards. Now, if I picked one of the cards, Ruby Preferred, I can see that it does have a pretty high annual fee, but we don't have as many customers as we'd want it to have. What I can do is I can actually click here and link to my card lookup dashboard. So really all I'm doing is parameterizing this dashboard and creating this navigational experience so that whenever a card type appears, I can click on it and Looker will bring me to this dashboard and automatically filter it for that card. And what this allows you to do is instead of having 30, 40, 50 dashboards, each for just a slightly different use case, you can only have 2 or 3 that'll all power all those use cases. So I can click on a customer and always go to my customer lookup dashboard, or a merchant and go to my merchant lookup dashboard. And Looker will do the job of automatically filtering it for what you clicked on. And now I come to a dashboard where I get a high-level view for this particular card, how people are using it, where they're spending, et cetera, the merchants. And specifically, if I'm thinking about how do I now get more customers on the Ruby Preferred card, I can see that based on the way we set it up, all our customers are now coming from the Ruby card to the Ruby Preferred, which makes sense. And now I actually want to understand, what actions I can take to maybe get more Ruby customers to switch to Ruby Preferred. And this is now where you can really move from the dashboarding to the self-service exploration environment. Anytime you have a question that you want to ask from something in the dashboard, an end user without any knowledge of SQL should be able to explore from here. And that will bring you into this Explore, which is our self-service environment for end users to ask questions. At face value, it actually may look, like what you're familiar with in the traditional BI sense, in that you have fields you can use to ask questions with. But the key difference is that each of these fields are actually defined in that data dictionary, by the data analyst. And that data dictionary is basically deciding within a particular environment what fields get exposed to different users. So some users may see many fields, other users may see less. How they're defined, how they're labeled, if you want to add hover descriptions. So you now have access to all these fields. Some may be less complex than others, but you can use them in any way you want to ask your questions. And you know that whatever's going to come out the other side is going to be correct because it's being based off of these fields in the model. For now, going back to the challenge at hand, again, I see that 57 customers this quarter had moved from Ruby to Ruby Preferred. Maybe I want to see, on average, how long is it taking customers to move from Ruby to Ruby Preferred? So what I could do is I can actually filter on only show me customers that started with Ruby and then moved to Ruby Preferred. I'm actually going to remove this field from the data set, as well as this one, and say, well, I want to slice this by how many months between sign up did these users make the switch. So now I can see very quickly that for each of these end users, kind of the progression of when they actually made the switch from Ruby to Ruby Preferred. So there isn't much of a trend here, but let's say I was looking and I realized that, from this data, most customers are making the switch from Ruby to Ruby Preferred after 12 months of having the card. So what I could then do is now create a list of all the customers that have had a Ruby card for 12 years but have not made the switch yet, and use that to trigger my promotional offerings. So to do that, I'll just reopen this data set and say, and I'll actually clear this all up and say, get me a list of client IDs, actually. And you can get any other information. For now, we'll just use the IDs because maybe that's what our internal systems use to run these promotional offerings. And get me a list of client IDs that had the Ruby card. And each step of the way at the back end, what Looker is doing, so this would be hidden from most end users, but it's actually writing the SQL, using the model to write the SQL in real time to get you that information. An end user doesn't have to worry about it, but it allows developers to see exactly what SQL Looker's writing, which at the end of the day would be your SQL you would have saved in the model. And this is what's being sent down to the database so the user can get their information. But I'm actually going to add one more thing. I'm going to say I only want users who've been active for 12 months. Now I've gotten all those users who've had a Ruby card for 12 months that are primed to potentially, and who've not switched to Ruby Preferred yet, and are primed to potentially make that switch, and we can offer that promotional upgrade. So one thing I could do is, of course, I could just download this data, but we really want to try to close the loop again between those operational workflows. So I can actually go and schedule this. And I'm just going to save it here. Clients to be offered. And with our schedule, you can really schedule data anywhere you want. So, it may be a bit more manual where you are just scheduling an email to the marketing team to take those client IDs and send promotions. But really, as you'll see here, you can schedule data to any app, and these are only some that are available. Via webhook, you can send it to any in-house tool, any other third-party web-based tool to do something with that. So I can actually just send those client IDs directly to our marketing promotion tool to start the campaign. And then once I've created that schedule, I can do it in an alert-based mechanism or even on a cadence to say, hey, every week, get me the list of customers that have been Ruby card holders for 12 months or more that we've not sent this promotion to, and send those client IDs to send them promotion. And these are just some examples of kind of the operational workflows that we're trying to close. Again, this is a very specific example within the credit card division, but I'm sure you can imagine we can do something very similar within fraud, where you're sending fraudulent transactions to Jira to automatically create tickets, or within sales, sending campaigns to Salesforce to get started, or sending a list of ads that are underperforming to AdWords to automatically pause. Really, it's going to work with any of those operational workflows that come to mind. So, with that, that's really the modern BI portion, as well as triggering operational workflows. The other two we haven't spoken about are integrated insights as well as custom applications. So, thinking about integrated insights first, everything I've shown right now is within the Looker UI. You're telling people to log into the Looker UI and get all this value from using the self-service and dashboards. But as I said before, not everyone is going to be spending their time within a BI tool. So, we talked about it already, but you can actually go and embed data into Salesforce, or actually call data into your chat apps like Slack or GChat. So, example here, we're just leveraging the Slack app to say, hey, Looker, get me pipeline forecast this year, and it'll just return that data right into your Slack app. And this can be done with anything. So with other customers, we're actually pushing data right to their branch managers in the apps that they use versus getting them to log into a BI tool. We're pushing data right to text message to take an action and things like that. And that's really kind of about getting data to the edge of the organization, to people that are not necessarily close to the data team, but that still is going to add a lot of value. Just being able to see that one data point when making the decision is going to make a big difference. And then finally, really going the full extreme is leveraging Looker to build these custom applications. So, there are applications where you can just take Looker visualizations and pop them in and embed them as iframes, and that's actually really easy to do. And you can leverage what Looker's offering in terms of visualizations, and you just take care of the skin of your portal. But a lot of our customers are actually using the Looker API to build fully custom applications that don't even leverage Looker visualizations at all. And this is an example of that. So you'll see here, none of this actually looks like what I just showed within the Looker dashboard, but it's actually all Looker powering it. It's still that model taking care of writing the queries and delivering the data. You're just deciding what it actually then looks like to the end user. So, I'll have different filter types that are unique to what my customers require, different charts. Again, at the back end, these could still be built in Looker. I can still have, I'm not logged in, but I could still go and build those visualizations in Looker, and that's what's powering that. But it just looks different to your customers. A couple more examples. You can start to create stories where, maybe consuming a dashboard doesn't make sense, but consuming it within this kind of story framework of a page and visualizations embedded within does make better sense for your customers. And, really at the full end of the extreme, it's actually monetizing and giving your customers the ability to actually query the data themselves and slightly what I was touching on with the global payments example. So if I was delivering data back out to my customers, I could deliver that same exploration interface so that they can query the data in that same governed way all my end users were. But a lot of the times your customers actually don't want to be querying the data within that BI tool interface, and they have very specific ways they want to be asking for data. Maybe they just want tabular data. Maybe they have specific actions they want to take. So this is an example of that where at the heart of it, it's still the Looker Explorer. It's still those same fields that are defined in the model that's controlling all this, but it's a fully different exploration type experience where, here as an end user looking at who I can offer an insurance for within some custom app, I can do this different type of filter. I can search for users. I can go and add columns in the same way that I was via the left-hand panel and get my tabular list. And then those same actions that we built internally, you can even expose externally to your customers. So if I were to come to one of these customers and I wanted to go and refinance the loan, you can give them an option to do that right from this table. So I'll pause there. I know we covered quite a bit and a little bit of everything, but really more than anything, I wanted to use this time to kind of just show you what's possible. Of course, we'll provide at the end of this session resources and the possibility to set up personal demos if you wanted to talk a little bit more about your specific use case. But the idea really is that Looker's modeling layer in database connection and offering up all their APIs lets it act as this API for data where you can really build any custom experience on top of. And this is where we're seeing financial services get the most value out of data from the customers we've been working with. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you, very much for joining us today. That brings this presentation to a close. I really appreciate everyone taking the time out of their day to join, and hope you all have a great day.